Hi everybody, David Nour. I want to welcome you to my first Facebook Live session. I've been doing these periscopes for, 6, 8 months, and unfortunately, just a lot of nonsense. People you don't know just jump in and make inappropriate comments or whatnot. So I just decided get away from Periscope and either do this with Facebook Live or maybe even YouTube Live. But I love the weekly chance to share some business relationship insights. That's my expertise. That's what I'm passionate about. And I think these little tidbits help those who follow me, follow my work, get just that bite-sized pieces of information that hopefully they can put to work. And as I've done now for almost 2 decades, I try to make this idea of relationship economics practical and pragmatic. And by the way, somebody commented that they see the real me. So I'm working out of my home office. I'm wearing my Dallas Fire soccer jersey, and this is not a suit. This is not on stage. These aren't scripted. So the goal is every Tuesday, 1 o'clock Eastern. Welcome, Uncle Joe's here. Glad and others have joined as well. So thanks for coming. So the goal is to make these practical and pragmatic and give you usable ideas that you can put to work. We'll also record each one, and we're trying to create a library of them under the resource section of the website. So you can go back and watch the other, again, periscopes that I've done or Facebook Live moving forward. So the series is called 10 Relationship Impact Moments. Over the last 2 decades, I've watched individuals, teams, and organizations do these 10 things phenomenally well, consistently well. And whether you're a contributor or a manager or a leader, what I want you to really think about is and relationships are between individuals, not logos. Your building doesn't have a relationship with another building. It's Joe and me, and Tom and me, and Beth, right? So it's individuals, not logos, not business cards. So you have to, when it comes to relationships, you really have to think about, I say look in the mirror and really think about what are you doing to invest in, to nurture those relationships. Bob Tarabella, my old friend, glad you're here. So 10 relationship impact moments. Let me go through them very quickly. Last week I covered empathy. Number 1, empathy, walk in their shoes. It's amazing how often we approach meetings thinking about our own agenda versus where they're coming from and what are they struggling with and what's important or priority to them. So you have to start with empathy. Today's topic number 2 is engagement. You have to show up. I often ask people, how are your relationships better off because of you? And people jump right into, well, let me tell you all that I do. Well, and I often have to stop them. I'm like, hold on a second. That's not what I asked. What I'm asking you is, how are they better off because of you? That's engagement, and that's apparent when you show up. Number 3, adaptability. You got to tailor it. Paul Trapp, glad you're here. Welcome. So 3 is adaptability. Regardless of your products or services, how are you tailoring those solutions for individual relationships? 4, perspective. Change their lens. Get them to see that scenario from a different perspective. One of my favorite movies, Dead Poets Society, where the late the actor, Robin Williams got on tables and asked the students to do the same on desks so they could see from a very different lens, very different view. 5, conviction. Bring a point of view. Bring something you believe in deeply. And people tend to gravitate towards that passion and conviction. Even if they may be on the fence or they don't agree with you, I'm a big believer of bring a point of view. 6, collaboration. Collaboration for the sake of collaboration is a waste of time. Collaboration to make the end result stronger is priceless. So before you go to the next meeting, before you go to the next call, schedule some prep time for yourself and ask, how am I going to add value? How will I convey my credibility to the questions I ask? How will others be better off because I was in that call or that meeting? And stop just showing up. And I think way too many of us try to wing it. 7, selflessness, which is really lower your self-interest. I'm coaching a bunch of executives, and I don't go to any of these meetings with, let me tell you what a great speaker I am, or here's all the books I've written. They don't care. I think you would agree everybody's favorite subject is themselves. So if you go to the next relationship visit and reduce your self-interest, it's amazing often what they'll share with you. 8, accountability. You got to own it. I have 0 relationships, 0 clients that are at all even remotely interested in finger pointing. So own it. By the way, I often coach people, if you don't screw up, you're not human. It's what you choose to do with it after the fact that really elevate you above the noise. So you got to have that sense of accountability. I often tell people, take the high road, even if it wasn't your fault. Listen, I apologize, we screwed up. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it. And those really strengthen the relationship. And they see the real you, not the person we all pretend to be or try to be. 9, candor. Say what others won't. Say what others can't. I'm convinced the higher you go, the lonelier that position, that job gets. And number 2, a lot of executives I work with are surrounded by yes people. Right? I want to go spend $10 million on this project. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. After it fails, I knew that would never work. Well, why didn't you say that at the beginning? Well, I want to be a corporate guy. Nobody needs a corporate guy. What people need is that candor. What people need is that real honesty that says, look, I'm concerned about our efforts to do this, or the path we're taking, or the risks we're not thinking about. So candor is critical if you want to really deepen the relationships. 9, improvement, up their game. How are they better off because of you? So again, these are 10 relationship impact moments. Each week I'll cover one. Last time I covered empathy. Dr. Bertuzzi, glad you're here. So 10 relationship impact moments, practical, pragmatic ideas, hopefully you can put to use the same day. So last week I covered empathy, walk in their shoes. It's very easy for us to walk in and tell people what to do and how to do it. Again, don't get away from that. Don't change that. But it would behoove all of us to kind of really listen and understand where they're coming from. Today is all about engagement, and I want to talk about a couple of things about engagement. It's become a sexy, jazzy thing to talk about. Associations are after it. Companies are after it. I kid you not. I've now more recently seen it on meeting agendas. It seems to be the buzzword of the week, right? We want more engagement. I often force people to define, what does that look like? It reminds me of the word partner. Let's partner together. What the heck does that mean? Have you ever asked anybody that? And by the way, first sign of a storm, they bail, right? When they want to partner with you. So it's really important to find engagement. And by that I mean, what's the purpose of that engagement? You want them to engage to do what? More importantly, what do you want them to think, feel, or do differently? So engagement has to have a purpose, it has to have an audience, and it needs some sort of a game plan. So the reason the purpose matters, and for those of you who just, Nicole, welcome, Doug, welcome, glad you guys are here. So the reason engagement is important, I don't know if you can see this, but I'll put this up in the Facebook again. I read 3 magazines. I subscribe to a bunch, but I read 3 cover to cover religiously. Fast Company, Inc., and Harvard Business Review. Inc. is just scrappy, right? Talks a lot about what startups do. Fast Company gives me a lot of clever ideas. Harvard Business Review is just meaty, right? It forces you to think, and you read things like, that's kind of really clever. So Harvard Business Review had this graph years ago, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but it basically shows that engagement is really a strategy, and it actually shifts the demand curve. What that means is if you create engagement, people are going to want to work with you. People are going to want to jump on your project. People are going to want to support your efforts. But you've got to create that, and I'll talk more about this. It's an emotional connection. We all, by the way, the other thing I try to do is I try to watch one TED Talk a day, regardless of where I am or what I'm doing. And I got to tell you, some of them are just like way out there. Other ones are really practical. And Simon Sinek talks about your purpose and knowing your why. A lot of people talk about products and services and look how great we are. They forget that emotional hook, that emotional connection. And that's exactly what you got to really think about, is why would people want to support your effort? Complete side story. I'm doing this distinguished gentleman's motorcycle ride when I'm taking my son, and we're going to dress up in bow ties and look really sharp and ride not a crazy fast bike, but an old cafe racer. And I'm teaching him how to dress like a gentleman, how to behave like a gentleman, how to carry himself like a gentleman. And by the way, the whole fundraising and the cause is support curing men's prostate cancer and hopefully preventing men's suicide. The bike ride is an afterthought. It's the cause. It's the fact that my dad, is having prostate issues, and I've had friends that have been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and it's a really uncomfortable topic for a lot of people to talk about. So if you convey that emotional connection of this is why the ride matters to me, you'll get, and I've been blessed, several friends have jumped on and have supported this fundraising effort. People will get engaged. People will get involved. So instead of just telling people the job description, who gives a flying leap? And the job description changes all the time. Give them something they can believe in. Give them something that can create an emotional connection to what you're trying to do. So number one, it shifts the demand curve. Number two, there's 4 ways to create engagement, right? Once you have a purpose, once you have a target audience, once you have a game plan or an action plan, there's 4 unique ways to create engagement. Number one is tech enabled. I use my smartphone. I fly a lot with Delta Airlines, which is the local airline, and when they, their app creates, allows me to check in and pick my seat and pick my meal and all that jazz. That's a technology-enabled engagement. It's great for in between, doesn't replace the face-to-face. Number two, product or service design. The way you design your products, the way you design your services has the potential to create engagement, particularly if you get your target audience involved in the design, development, and delivery of it. Number three, marketing communication. This is what great copy does. This is what great images do. They kind of engage us, bring us in. Less about the product and service, more about, again, and this is tough for a lot of people to understand, the feeling, the connection, the emotional tie to that product or service. Last but not least, I don't think it's going to come as a surprise to you, is human interaction, right? Human interaction creates engagement. Stefano and I have had dinner and we've talked about that sales clerk in the men's store, or he loves pen shops, by the way. And you go in and they're incredibly knowledgeable and they engage you with, well, what do you write with now? Or, where do you shop for your stuff now? Or that waiter at the restaurant that, have you noticed, by the way, regardless of what wine you order, the response is consistently excellent choice, right? But they're very knowledgeable about not just the menu, and they're not reading off some list. They know their ingredients, and they know, what they've tasted, their own meals, right? So they really, Bill Brown, welcome. They really are very knowledgeable about what's on the menu, or what are body shapes, what shapes and patterns in men's clothing will look good with our skin, tone and body shape, or the pen store, person understands the way we write and the importance of penmanship in the age where we're texting and emailing a lot more. So those human interaction examples are critical. Again, for you, what kind of emotional connection are you creating when you interact with people? More importantly, if you're in a position to lead a team, how are they creating engagement with everybody that interacts with your brand? I'm coaching executives and I tell them consistently you should focus on 2 things and 2 things only: your brand and your culture. And both of those are going to require great engagement. Third point, to succeed in engagements, you need 3 things. It has to be credible. Think about it a second, right? You can't fake this. You can't. I ride motorcycles. I can figure out in the first 5 to 10 minutes whether the other person who happens to bring up motorcycles knows anything about bikes or not, right? And most people have a BS radar. So if you try to be somebody you're not, or if you try to go down a path you have no business going down, they're going to see right through that. So your engagement has to be critical, regardless of what channel you try to create that. Your purpose matters more than ever before. In a world full of noise, what sets people apart is really the purpose and the focus that you create that engagement around. So we're talking about, to succeed, engagement have to be 3 things. 1 is credible. 2 is relevant. have you seen how much just comes across our radar, our desks, our emails that are just not relevant to us? I mean, I'm getting information about some healthcare conference that it doesn't matter to me. It's not relevant to me. Or some supply chain event. Or this is the quintessential definition of junk mail. So if you want to engage people, it's got to be relevant. The number one reason most people unsubscribe from newsletters or unsubscribe from magazines is it's not relevant to me. So make sure, I'd rather see, and I'm coaching clients. Carol's here. Glad you joined. I'm coaching more of our clients to make sure what you send out, the communication channels, the communication messages you send to people are relevant to them. If it doesn't speak to them, if it doesn't engage them, you're going to miss the point. And that's the fastest way people are going to disengage. We're talking about 3 things to succeed if you want to really create engagement. 1, be credible. 2, be relevant. 3, you got to be contagious. The engagement's got to be contagious. I've talked about Waze or the Delta mobile app, or I also try to download a mobile app a week. Now, some of them, I got to tell you, are a complete waste of time. I'm like, what the heck is this? Others are amazing. Others are like really cool, and I'm showing these apps to other people. That's what contagious is all about. That's the technology enablement. How about your receptionist who smiles every time you walk in? How about that assistant that remembers your name when you go see them? How about that piece of mail that is very specific to you? Kel's just joined. Kel's is a Eagle Scout, and we're both Scout leaders. And I recently just joined. You're gonna love this. I recently just joined renewed the National Eagle Scout Association. Right. This is a organization for all the National Eagle Scouts, and I paid my dues. And on the page where you go and you fill in all the information, it says your rank and what are you currently doing. What do I get in their response packet? A generic letter. Dear fellow Eagle Scout, if you're currently registered in Scouting, thank you. If you're not, contact your local council to get involved. I've been a Scout leader for going on 6 or 8 years. And it's another example of these nonprofits that just blanket stuff out without thinking, how can I create engagement? Hey, listen, thank you. We understand from our records that you're a Scout leader. Thank you for that service. And by the way, how's it going? And here's something we can do to help. And here's some upcoming events. Instead of a generic letter that's a waste of money and mailing, it's a missed opportunity to create engagement. So what I hope you'll take away about engagement, specifically your business relationships, is you have to create an emotional connection before, during, and after they interact with you. I try to do this with my family. I try to do this with Scouting. I try to do this with my clients. I try to do this with kind of every facet of my life. How can I create an emotional connection? Not just likes of products or services, but emotional connection to a brand, to a promise, before, during, and after. Because if you create engagement, not only they'll remember you, because you've set yourself apart from everybody else who doesn't, but they'll come back to you. So, glad, delighted. Oh, ton of stuff. Bob Tarabella, Eagle Scout achievement is a great personal connection among leaders. Absolutely. And I've seen executives on airplanes with the Eagle Scout lapel pin, and it's just a great relationship or conversation starter, right? So listen, I'm glad you're here. I want to keep these short. I want to keep these practical and pragmatic. I'm going to try to do them every Tuesday, 1 o'clock Eastern. I hope you'll keep coming back. Again, this series is 10 relationship impact moments. Last week I covered empathy. Today I covered engagement. The next one is going to be on adaptability. And I'm going to talk a lot about how to tailor your products and services for each unique relationship. So thanks everybody. Janine is here from UK. Hi. Glad you joined. A little late, but that's okay. Keep coming back. 1 o'clock Eastern every Tuesday. Thanks for being here. Sorry I look rough, but this is what I look like when I'm actually working on the next book, by the way. So thanks for coming, and I hope to see you again next time, 1 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday. Thanks everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.